We've got to be very aware that they can't just shift people from PAYE umbrella to limited company or self-employment, because HMRC, for all the stick they get, aren't idiots. They will notice the rise in PSC contracting, and they think that they, as you say, they think they've cracked IR35. They think it was a storming success. If you see the stats and the stories that they publish, from their perspective, it worked. It did exactly what it should do, help close the tax gap, and therefore they thought, right, we've conquered the PSC market, let's apply similar logic to the umbrella market.
And it makes sense, doesn't it?
And for first principles,
yeah,
it does,
Hello and welcome to Beyond Borders, and I'm your host, Andrew Fahey. And in this podcast, we talk about the exciting world of taking your business internationally. And to do that, we speak to a range of different guests from different backgrounds. Sometimes we speak to people that have taken their business internationally. Sometimes we speak to service providers that help and provide support to businesses who might be looking at that. And sometimes we just speak to pretty cool people with great experience that we can all learn from. And today's guest sort of ticks all three of those boxes. He's an entrepreneur in a sector that is renowned for looking at international footprint, which is recruitment, in a niche market which is highly regulated and subject to lots and lots of change, that also supports the flexible workforce. So today I'd like to introduce you to Josh Bramhall from CMR.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Really appreciate that. And I was eagerly anticipating which of those boxes you were going to put me in, so thanks for being so kind. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on, and really looking forward to chatting today.
Okay, really simple to start with, Josh. Just give everybody an intro of how you sort of ended up here today, your background, experiences, where CMR came from.
Well, it's probably your fault that I'm sat here today, because the reason that I came into the industry, the industry that I now recruit into, the umbrella market, 2014, I started at a company that we both used to work at. I remember sitting across a table like this, doing my interview with you, very overconfident 20-odd-year-old telling you that one day I wanted your job. And I was, that's how I came into the umbrella market. Worked in and around the market for 10 years, so worked for a few umbrella companies, and then the majority of the career was spent working as a service provider to the umbrella market. So spent a decade in the industry as a supplier, and then late 2023 set up CMR. So we're a specialist recruitment agency, and we provide sales, marketing, operational and accountancy staff to the umbrella market.
So the boyish good looks and successful bio might have put people off. So just tell everybody where CMR come from to win back the favour of the audience.
Yeah, so CMR are the initials of my three children. So outside of work, 2021 we had our first child, 2022 we had our second, 2023 we had our third, and then late 2023 we had our fourth child, which is the business.
Nice story. So
Thank you.
What makes CMR so different, so specialised in this sector, in this vertical, but just come alive what you've sort of tried to do to make yourself stand out?
Yeah, so at CMR, what we do to stand out is we do the basics right. So we provide recruitment services to the umbrella market, which ironically is a market that was, in my opinion, quite poorly serviced by recruitment agencies. So that's ironic, because umbrella companies live and die by the supply of temporary labour from recruitment agencies. But the perm agencies that serviced it never really understood it. It was always about bums on seats, it was a numbers game. So my experience from the outside and trying to get jobs in the market was never great. So CMR was born to do things properly. And the guys that work with me, we've always approached things from a first principles. How would we want to be treated if we were looking for work? And how should clients experience trying to find staff, and doing the right things with good morals, good ethics. And that's, I think, what really stands us out. And I think it's been reflected in the relative success that we've had. So 14 months in now, we've helped just over 75 people into roles.
That's great.
The first milestone is getting to 100. I always thought it'd take 2 or 3 years to do that. With a bit of luck, we'll be there in the summer. So yeah, that's what we're doing, and hopefully how we're doing it differently.
So a little bit of jargon busting, probably sense check ourselves, because you and I are so used to this sector and this terminology, but just help people when we talk about the umbrella sector, what do we mean when we talk about that?
So we don't mean the physical parasols, which is what I thought a decade ago when people referred to the umbrella market. So the umbrella market is a contractor payroll market that pays, at last count, I think about 700,000 temporary workers on behalf of recruitment agencies and end clients. So it's a payroll market.
And the jargon's particularly specific to the UK. So I guess for people all over the world talking to us, we talk about employer of record services, but ultimately it's an intermediary that employs workers in a flexible contract and deploys them on various assignments.
Essentially, yeah.
So quite entrepreneurial to go and do this, but this market is by no means an easy market. It's subject to lots of regulatory change, just talk to us about your experience of sort of dealing with in a market like that.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong. So it's, again, drilling it down to what the umbrella market is. It's payroll, it's accountancy as well, sort of gets caught up in the same terminology. So payroll and accountancy, every April there are legislative changes that come in, some big, some not so big, that impact how the market works. So it's a market that every 9 to 12 months is having to diversify, to innovate, and just to keep up with that pace of change. So it's a brilliant market for people that love that pace of change and love no 2 years being the same. So that's what I've seen over the last decade, and that's what I really, really love about it.
And again, when we think about helping people understand that, if you're a member of this flexible workforce, you can either be an independent contractor or an IC that some people refer to them. And in the UK, you do that by setting up and creating a business, which is a corporate entity called a personal service company, and you engage on a contract for service. So that's the accountancy side.
Correct,
and if you either don't want that responsibility, or you're unable to work in that way because of other regulation, which we could go into, you can actually become an employee of an umbrella. And that's why they get interchanged, isn't it? Because it's sort
Correct, yeah. And a lot of businesses, so a lot of umbrella companies that service the payroll side of what we've just spoken about will have a sister company or a department within it that services the accounts for those PSCs. So yeah, because it's not a normal set of accounts either. There's lots of nuances that exist. Like an umbrella company isn't a normal payroll. There's lots of nuances that exist in the temporary labour market that need these specialist entities to engage and look after the individuals.
So this sector, this flexible workforce sector, as we said at the start, for somebody to go into that as a service provider has to be able to pivot and change because it's an evolving marketplace, and regulations trying to sometimes catch up or be changed because of exploitation that happens as well.
And I think because of the nuances of the industry, sometimes there's legislation that exists or that's introduced that unintentionally impacts the market as well. So it's one that is constantly being legislated against, either intentionally or accidentally. And it's one that, so the Employment Rights Bill was a huge change that came into the workforce in the UK. Obviously that impacted the temporary labour market, which subsequently impacted the umbrella market. So you've got that, whilst you've got all the other changes that were introduced in April. So there's just constant change that is going on in this market. And yeah, if you are a provider that just services one niche within that, so be it payroll or be it accountancy, your business is quite exposed, I suppose, if one of those changes that comes in is quite drastic for you. So
and there is potentially a quite drastic change that's looming around now that impacts on umbrella businesses. I think it's fair to say the details still forming and still sort of coming out, but just help people understand what this proposed change is.
Yeah, well, luckily for the audience, I'm a simple man, so I can give a simple description. So at the moment, when a recruitment agency puts a contractor onto a job, the umbrella company sits in the supply chain to employ and pay that individual. And the liability for the payroll sits with, and this is a simple version, as I keep saying, sits with the umbrella company at the moment.
And that's the benefit they bring.
That's one of the benefits to the supply chain, absolutely. But it's being proposed that liability will shift up the supply chain to either the recruitment agency or the end client. But a lot of the confusion at the moment is being caused around the fact that all we've got is the headline. They've said, they consulted, to be fair to HMRC and government, they did consult on what changes should be made. They proposed 3 outcomes. And I think in October 2024, they announced it's what's known as option 3. So of the 3, probably the worst, as far as the umbrella market was concerned, the worst option. That's what they've gone with. But at the moment, they've just said, yeah, we're going with that. We'll let you know the detail later. Don't worry about it. So you can imagine the panic.
And so they're quite conflicting views, that, because in one point we're saying this is a really sort of innovative marketplace that's delivering a really useful service to a really fast growing sector, but at the same time we're saying there's regulation that changes. And I guess when I think about that, and over my career having been in and around this sector, it's where professional contractors and vulnerable workers get put into the same bucket and confused and sort of shaken around, and ultimately the regulatory outcome is a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Is that
absolutely?
That
because in those 700,000 workers that I referenced earlier, you've got the warehouse, the pickers and packers, the national minimum wage individuals, but you've also got your QS that's working on £1,500 a day. These career contractors, and they're all being treated the same. But I think the other thing, and the reason that the government and HMRC are doing what they're doing to the umbrella market, is because of they're perceived or they think that there's a huge tax gap that is being caused by non-compliance in the umbrella market. So coming at it from first principles, hearing that if people don't know the market, of course you'd legislate against it, because one of the things that has always surprised me is the fact the umbrella market isn't a regulated industry. There's absolutely nothing to start you and I now saying tomorrow, okay, let's be an umbrella company. And what that means, and the risk there, is that we could theoretically be in receipt of hundreds of thousands of pounds from a recruitment agency the following Friday. And if we were so inclined, we could just take that money and go and live in the Caribbean.
It's slightly worse than that. Then it's two unregulated markets sat on top of each other, because there's an end client with a recruitment organisation, which is an unregulated market, with then the umbrella to do that. So clearly neither of us tax or employment lawyers, so I think we sort of stay away from the specific technicalities of that. But ultimately what we now have is you've created a business in a sector that is subject to massive disruption. So there's sort of two lines of questions here that we can go down. The first being, talk to us about what you're doing to protect your business with innovation and product diversification, and then the same, what you're helping your customers with, the umbrella providers.
Well, I'll never forget. So it was October when the announcement was made that it was option 3 that was being introduced to the umbrella market. And the initial panic in the market was one that made me think, oh, here we go, I've started a business, we're 9 months in, and I'm going to now have to go back and be employed because this market is going to be no more. After sleeping on it and speaking to some people that were a lot better educated than me, I've realised that's not the case. And again, going back to the 700,000 workers are going to need paying after April 2026, so they're not going to just be employed the day after. So there will still be a market, and therefore there'll still be CMR. In terms of what we did, well, we were led by our clients. So the first few months of existing, we worked primarily with umbrella companies, helping them find staff to work in their organisations. And in the build up to October 2024, some of our more innovative clients decided that they needed to diversify, because whatever option came in, their business was going to be at risk. So they decided they needed staff for their organisation to maybe launch construction payroll models, to launch accountancy practices, to launch bureau, to launch international offerings. And luckily for us, they came to us to help them find the right people. So then our business was no longer just the umbrella recruitment. We also did those other services that I've just mentioned. So we were absolutely led by our clients, and we found real success in the accountancy market. So we've now got a dedicated individual in our business that recruits into accountancy practices. So initially quite nervous after speaking to clients and properly partnering, sitting around boardroom tables and influencing people strategy, I've realised that everything's going to be okay, and it's actually been a positive for us and some of our more innovative clients. More generally though, what we also did was we did two things. We thought there's going to be a real knowledge gap in the industry now, so whatever happens with legislation, you're going to have a lot of people in the industry that are going to have to be upskilled to understand that detail. So we launched something called the Next Gen Academy, and there's a theme with everything that I do. We bring people that are specialists in their sectors, that are specialists in training individuals on legislation, and we'll take that service now to our clients. So if you're an owner-operated umbrella company or accountancy practice that wants to upskill your staff, Next Gen Academy exists to do that. So that was the first thing we did. I then also noticed probably in December, Jan time, there was still a lot of uncertainty in the market. And you've got businesses or non-for-profits in the industry that will advise the umbrella market, but they only advise the people that are paid members of their cohort. So what I thought was, look, I know a lot of companies that, a lot of people, that run umbrella companies that are quite nervous, that need support and need a peer network. So we launched something called the UN, the Umbrella Network, which is a community, a cohort of owners of umbrella companies and accountancy practices that come together, discuss, bounce ideas off each other. But again, we host events probably once a month at the moment where we'll bring employment specialists, we'll bring tax specialists into the room, and they can educate the people that are running these companies. So yeah, we've done quite a bit to try and help bring a market together at a time when other markets might all go into their own side, the businesses might go into their own silos.
And some of this is just about a maturing market as well, isn't it? So it's, it's compared to accountancy, it's relatively new, isn't it? And as I said before, there's sometimes employment law and regulations trying to catch up on the paradigm shift of everybody wants to be a highly paid consultant doing gig work now as well. So you've got a market need and you've got things that are catching up. But I guess from what this actually does to the leaders of businesses in this sector is it makes them think about the valuation of their business and how to de-risk it correctly. And the product diversification makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It'll also attract a better sort of multiple value, and it'll also have a better because the quality of earnings will be looked at in a better way. But more importantly, it also fits the actual need of the market, because if you could be critical of this market, whether we're talking about sort of extremes of PSC or extremes of umbrella, it's taking the choice away from individuals and having stuff done to them. When you look at all the regulatory, that's where it comes from. So to have a business that says, I'm almost ambidextrous, I don't care what's the right solution for the worker, the client, the agency, for the risk profile, for how employment legislation, tax legislation works, that's got to be the best place, right?
100% for multiple reasons. And I think it's a very competitive industry as well. So there are 200 umbrella companies and there are, I think, 18,000 recruitment agencies that pay temporary workers. So everybody's going after the same pool of agencies. And if you go to an agency or if you go to a client and you're offering anything and you can only offer one part of what they need, but if you can go to that client, I'm not saying that we did, that we're the best business in the world, but again, when we go to our clients now, we can say, what kind of staff is it that you need? What specialisms you need them to be able to supply, and we can get the staff for you. The clients that we work with that have innovated in the previous years or prior years that are already doing that, they're not as nervous about the umbrella legislation because they've already got all these service lines that are available to their clients. So I think that goes beyond the umbrella market. If you're a business owner, just sit and talk to your clients. What do they want? Can you offer that service? Yeah, okay, well let's look at doing that then.
So I guess one of the things we like to do is to try and give people some useful advice and takeaways, and I think that there's a few different ways of cutting this. So I think first, if you're a service provider, so if you're running an umbrella provider in the market now, what advice would you give them? If somebody sat there thinking, I'm not actually sure what to do, what advice would you give those guys?
Sit around boardroom tables or around pubs or cafes with your clients. Sit and listen to your clients, because if you ever want to know where to take your business or what to do, who better to tell you than your own clients? So that would be my first thing. And I also think, again, the umbrella legislation coming out, and it's not till April next year, it's a great opportunity to go and build relationships with your clients, because think about it from the recruitment agency's perspective. They're going to be nervous. Oh, we've got this big liability shift that's coming. What do we do? Oh, here's the payroll experts. Let's chat to them and see what we do. So, yeah, my advice would be to sit and speak to your clients irrelevant of what services you offer.
And then I think the next cohort of people sort of stepping out of that umbrella part in a minute is you're representative of an army of entrepreneurs who are sort of trying to make their way and set up businesses as well. And you've done it in a sector that is pretty fluid as well. So what sort of advice, what have you learned or takeaway bits of advice over the last 12, 18 months?
Just do it, follow your gut. And whether that's making the decision to set up or to do something within your business, anytime I've hesitated and overthought something, I've made retrospectively a bad decision or done something that I wouldn't have instinctively done. So follow your gut, just do it. You'll make loads of mistakes. It'll cost you a fortune, it'll cost you time, it'll cost you health and sleep, but you'll be a better business person for it and your business will be in a better position for it, in my experience anyway.
So we talked a little bit around how it's quite complicated and there's different ways you can work and there's different types of regulation. One of the things I worry about for this industry is, I referred to it as a maturing market, and I think it needs to mature as well. And so as regulation squeezes one part of it, there has been a tendency for exploitation of another. So my fear is, as umbrella either becomes perceived less attractive or less profitable, then the rise of PSCs happens again. And that's okay if it's done against the backdrop of compliance with IR35. I guess my fear is a lot of short term. We almost prove the government right by going, actually, it is non-compliant and unregulated and we're just going to do it. Do you worry about that at all?
Well, I think another point about umbrella as well is, it will become more expensive. It's just become harder. So recruitment agencies, I run a recruitment agency, so I can say this, like, if something's hard, a lot of people will think, okay, that's hard now, what's easier? And you're right, limited company contracting will look easier and therefore more attractive to owners of recruitment agencies. So will self-employment, so just gross payments to individuals. So companies have got to be very aware that they can't just shift people from PAYE umbrella to limited company or self-employment, because HMRC, for all the stick they get, aren't idiots. They will notice the rise in PSC contracting and they think that they, as you say, they think they've cracked IR35. They think it was a storming success. If you see the stats and the stories that they publish, from their perspective, it worked. It did exactly what it should do, help close the tax gap, and therefore they thought, right, we've conquered the PSC market, let's apply similar logic to the umbrella market.
And it makes sense, doesn't it?
And for first principles, it does,
If incorporations of single-person limited companies go through the roof on May the 1st, that, as you said, the reporting's in place, the regulations in place, the transfer of debt and risk and the policing procedures are all there. It is a sort of time to do this right if you're going to make that change.
Yeah, you don't mess around. When it comes to things like tax and NI and engaging with things that could put you at risk with HMRC, it's stuff that needs to be taken seriously so that as business owners you can sleep. HMRC have also subtly introduced a change to the definition of a small company, which gave uprise to a lot of celebration, and everyone was saying that's fine because, without going too much into the detail, IR35, the liability for the decision sits with the business owner when the PSC is engaging with a small company, I think I'm right in saying. So everyone was saying, oh, it's great, we'll just place them all with small companies, they can take the risk again. HMRC have now got, I think, an additional 5,000 enforcement officers that they've hired. They're going to be kept very busy if people are doing silly things like that, and they're going to find them. So yeah, I think you're right. It's time to take a grown-up approach to it and not take a simple approach to it. Take a thoughtful, educated approach to compliance.
Lots of entrepreneurs, lots of self-employed people watching this. Must have been a hugely stressful time what you went through. Sort of any advice that you can give to the listeners about how you approach that?
So, the first year of running a business, you've been there, is so stressful for infinite reasons. I don't think I slept less, and I've had 3 kids in 2 years. So that first year of running a business was, the most stressful period of my life. In the October, I remember I just had a home office built, placements were going well, the business was on a good trajectory, and then bang, in the October, it was announced that option 3 was coming. I was sat there in my new office and thinking, right, at least we've added value to the house now, at least when we sell the house, I'll get more money for it and I can go back and be employed. And, I thought the end was happening within the first 12 months for my business. And one of the reasons I was probably so worried is because we were so niche and we were just working in that umbrella market. So whilst I was lying there, or probably lying on my youngest child's floor at the time trying to help her sleep, I was thinking, where can I take this business? Where can we go that is still, we'll always be in the umbrella market because it's what's got us to where we are, but what other stuff can I start to do around it? So yeah, there was a lot of bad ideas that came out of that night. There was a lot of good ideas as well, and some that have helped us with the success in year 2.
And the specifics, so, if we were sat there now drawing up your business plan to say, okay, well, all your eggs were in placing payroll workers for Umbrella, I suppose admin and CX
sales
people
as well,
but you're now looking at how have you diversified?
So we now do umbrella as one of the industries that we recruit into. We do accountancy. We also have got contract recruitment that we're currently doing. So we work with a few, which takes us into the realm of the risks that we're talking about today. So it's a good opportunity, but equally keeps me awake at night. We've also got, we work with a lot of service providers. So I didn't realise that the network of candidates that we had in the umbrella market were really valuable to service providers to the umbrella market, but also to the recruitment market, because they've got this network of recruitment agencies that they've worked with. So similar to sitting and listening to our clients, we sat and we spoke and we analysed our candidates, and we now work in markets where they're attractive.
So you've sort of taken it from being umbrella specific and moved it up to flexible labour. You can have that strapline.
Thank you very much. No, you're right. So if you are a business that engages with any part of the temporary workforce, the temporary supply chain, we are specialists in helping you find people for those businesses. Yeah, okay. Definitely.
And then in terms of the umbrella, we touched a little bit on, you actually missed a sector off, international. So you are now the placer and sourcer of international sort of employment, accounting, workforce management solutions as well.
Yeah, you're right. So we've had clients, again, we are very led by what our clients do. So we've helped hire salespeople that sell to businesses that place globally. We've hired payrollers for those businesses. We've got our first 2 roles on for accountants that have got tax and accountancy knowledge globally. So globalization for our clients has been something that's been really attractive over the last 18 months, and therefore CMR are following our clients with that global expansion.
And we see that as well, because the recruitment sector is a sector that is prime for internationalization. So recruiters are helping global clients place workers. Since COVID, that nobody recruits in a 25-mile radius to the office anymore, so that's gone international. So you've got the recruitment sector that are becoming global, which then means the service providers to those sectors, like the umbrella providers, have to become global, which meant the service providers to those service providers have had to become global, which is you.
You're right, and it goes back to the point we mentioned earlier, because I want to be able to sit around the boardroom tables of my clients, and wherever their people strategy is that they're talking about, yes, CMR can help you. We're not just the guys that can help you in England, we're the guys that can help you globally. So yeah, 100% it's something that we're doing. But like all business owners, I've got 85 things that I want to do. We've just got to focus on the here and now, supplying the right people to our clients where they need them, but always having half an eye on the future and where we can go and where our clients can go, which is global. Yeah.
Okay, so we've now reached the part of the podcast where we do quick fire rounds questions, just a little bit of fun, don't overthink them. So one country you'd love to break into next?
Australia.
Okay, so why Australia?
So Australia, probably because of the cultural similarities, the weather, and the language.
Most overrated bit of business advice you've ever received, and I won't ask who gave it.
Sleep on it. So as I referenced earlier, I'm the complete opposite. Just do it and learn from any mistakes that you make.
I think you're right. The one mistake you've made that you've learned the most from?
Great question. Probably hiring. So conflicting what I just said, hiring on impulse rather than giving it proper thought.
So hard, isn't it?
Yeah, which is ironic given what we do.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot from it, which again is just helping us help our clients even more.
Well, a builder never has a nice house, think of it that way.
It's great perspective.
Yeah. So if you had to launch a completely new business tomorrow, so this is touching on the entrepreneurial side, which sector would you look to try and innovate and help?
It'd probably be something around childcare. So you see them pop up every now and then, like play centres, but smaller play centres. So like a cafe and a play centre. Yeah, I think something like that would really appeal. I've also had half an eye on a coffee shop as well. So.
Yeah, like that. What tech tool that you can't live without?
ChatGPT.
And what's the most exciting thing you've got planned for the year ahead?
So professionally, it's probably the events that we're hosting through the UN. So we're down at Markel next month, and then in September we've just secured a brilliant venue in Manchester. So we'll be doing a end of summer social with a few interesting speakers. So yeah, it's probably bringing the market together and hosting those events.
Excellent. Well, that has been a really useful discussion. I guess to wrap that up, it's been a real pleasure for me to watch your career. If you think of our journey, an employee, a mentoree at one stage, a supplier, a client, it's a great relationship, and sort of to see how you've evolved and grown and done that, it's really nice for me to see.
Much.
But I think for other people listening today as well, the sort of how you have been entrepreneurial in the face of adversity, how you've stayed calm and made decisions which generate business value, about diversificating revenue streams, how you're then trying to help educate and support a market which can overreact and can always take the easiest options as well. And then on the back of that, how you're then forward thinking enough to start to look at how globalization's impacting your clients' clients, and so you need to be thinking about this as well. That it just makes you a prime guest.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. It's and for anybody who doesn't know where to find you and how to find out more about CMR, a little shameless plug.
Probably LinkedIn's the easiest place these days. So yeah, if you go to LinkedIn, Josh Bramhall on LinkedIn, or the company website at CMR Jobs. But no, thank you for having me on. I've really enjoyed that, and I think, yeah, it's been a pleasure following you as well throughout my career and having you as a mentor and a client. I don't think you realise as a client how much you've helped our business as well with the free advice, the late night phone calls that you've taken off me. But also, as I said earlier, it's sitting around and discussing things with clients that I think differentiate CMR, and you're one of the clients that have really helped. So thank you very much.
No, good, and hopefully we helped other people. So thank you very much to Josh for being such a great guest, and thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep pushing those businesses beyond borders.